Maya tightened the grip on the thin hospital blanket wrapped around her newborn, her arms trembling from both exhaustion and the weight of the child she had brought into the world just hours earlier. The smell of antiseptic still clung to the air as the faint beeping of machines carried on behind her. But there were no flowers. No congratulatory balloons. No hand to hold. She was alone. The nurse had smiled gently when handing her the discharge papers. "You're all set, Ms. Monroe. Baby is healthy, and you're cleared. Do you have someone picking you up?" Maya had hesitated. "I'll take the bus." The nurse's expression faltered for a second. Pity, maybe. Or surprise. But she said nothing, only nodded. That silence echoed louder than any words could have. Now she stood outside the hospital's sliding doors, the cold March wind slicing through her like paper. The world didn't care that she had just brought a life into it. It kept moving. Cars passed, pedestrians rushed by, and no one looked twice at the girl with the tiny bundle in her arms. Maya's mind drifted to just 9 months ago. She had been sitting on a worn leather couch, 2 pregnancy tests trembling in her hands. Jason had walked in late from work, his tie askew and attitude sharp. When she showed him the tests, his eyes narrowed instead of lighting up. "I can't do this, Maya," he had said plainly. "I told you I wasn't ready for a kid. You weren't supposed to keep it." That night, he packed his things. And that was it. Her parents had been even less forgiving. "You've embarrassed us," her mother hissed over the phone. "We raised you better than this." The call ended with a beep, and Maya never heard from them again. Her fingers adjusted the beanie over her baby's tiny head. She looked down, eyes glassy, heart aching. "It's just you and me now," she whispered. "But I promise, I'll make this work." With her hospital bag slung over one shoulder and her baby tucked close, Maya began the walk to the bus stop. The concrete was cracked, stained, unfriendly. Her sneakers, worn down to their soles, made a soft shuffling sound with every step. The bus ride was a blur. She sat near the back, rocking gently as her baby slept. No one offered help. No one even smiled. Her destination was a small women's shelter on 47th Street. It wasn't ideal, but it was a roof. She'd called them weeks ago, securing a spot with the last of her prepaid phone credit. The woman on the other end had sounded kind. That kindness was enough to keep Maya from collapsing under the weight of her choices. At the shelter, a short woman with a clipboard met her at the door. "Maya Monroe? Come in, sweetheart. We've been expecting you." The room she was shown to was barely larger than a closet, 1 cot, 1 chair, a changing table missing a drawer. But it was warm. Safe. Her baby stirred as she placed him in the crib, a soft whimper escaping his lips. She sat on the cot, hands folded in her lap. The tears finally came. Not loud or messy, but silent. Slow. The kind that left tracks down her cheeks and soaked the collar of her sweatshirt. Her body hurt in ways she couldn't describe, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But there was no time to fall apart. Not now. Not ever. That night, Maya barely slept. She fed the baby every 2 hours, walked him when he fussed, changed his diaper in the flickering glow of a dying overhead bulb. By sunrise, the other women in the shelter began to stir. Some were older, weathered by years of hardship. Others were younger than her, girls with babies of their own. A few offered nods of acknowledgement. One smiled. "Maya, right?" the girl said. She had a toddler on her hip and eyes rimmed with dark circles. "I'm Kelsey." "You knew?" "Yeah," Maya replied softly. "Got here last night." Kelsey looked down at the crib. "He's beautiful." "What's his name?" Maya hesitated. She hadn't told anyone yet. She hadn't even said it out loud herself. "Micah." Kelsey smiled. "Nice. Welcome to the club, Mama." Later that day, Maya sat in the shelter's communal kitchen, feeding Micah formula while staring at the job board pinned to the wall. It was full of notes: cleaner needed, 3 nights/week. Dishwasher, early mornings. Cashier, bakery, ask for Tanya. She circled the ones that didn't require experience. The ones close enough to walk to. The ones that might pay just enough for her to start over. She would make something out of this. She had to. Micah stirred in her arms, opening his tiny mouth in a yawn so big his whole face scrunched up. She smiled, brushing her finger gently across his cheek. "I don't have much," she said, voice shaking, "but I'll give you everything I've got." And for the first time in days, she didn't feel like she was falling apart. She felt like a mother. The morning air bit at Maya's cheeks as she stepped out of the shelter, Micah bundled tightly against her chest in a sling. Her breath came out in puffs of fog, and her fingers ached from gripping the baby bag that swung against her side. She had circled the job listing for Tanya's Bakery, a small shop 10 blocks away, and decided to walk there first. She didn't own a stroller yet. Or gloves. Or proper boots. But she did have resolve, and it carried her forward with every shivering step. The bakery sat at the corner of 5th and Maple, a red awning slightly faded by time and weather. Inside, the smell of cinnamon rolls and coffee warmed the air. Maya lingered a moment in the doorway before a voice called out, "You coming in or planning to freeze out there?" A woman with gray-streaked hair and flour on her apron waved her in. "I'm looking for Tanya," Maya said, shifting nervously. "You're looking at her," the woman replied, then added with a raised brow, "Let me guess. You saw the flyer." Maya nodded. "I'm looking for work. I'll do anything: clean, mop, wash dishes. I just had a baby, and I need a start." Tanya crossed her arms, eyes flicking down to Micah, whose soft breaths could be heard above the hum of the ovens. "I can't have kids running around my kitchen," she said bluntly. "Health code." Maya's heart sank. "I understand. But," Tanya continued, "I like the way you walked in here anyway. Most wouldn't bother on a day like this." She motioned for Maya to follow. "Let's talk in the back." The job was simple: wash pans, clean counters, restock shelves. The pay was meager, the hours were early, 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., but it was something. Tanya agreed to let Maya start the next day. Kelsey at the shelter agreed to watch Micah in the mornings in exchange for help with her own toddler in the afternoons. It was far from perfect. But it was a lifeline. The weeks passed in a blur of flour and fatigue. Maya scrubbed until her fingers bled, caught naps between feedings, and battled the storm of postpartum emotions that threatened to pull her under. But each day she woke up, put on her borrowed coat, and walked to the bakery as though her life depended on it, because it did. Tanya rarely spoke much, but one night after closing, she handed Maya a worn envelope with a grocery store logo on it. "For Micah," she said, turning away before Maya could respond. Inside was a $50 gift card. Maya stared at it, stunned. "Why would you do this for me?" Tanya paused, then shrugged. "You remind me of someone. And I've learned the hard way, sometimes a little kindness early on makes all the difference." That night, Maya bought diapers, baby food, and a bag of oranges, her first fresh fruit in weeks. She fed Micah and herself, then sat in the dim light of the shelter's common room, filling out community college forms she'd picked up on her way back from work. Medical assistant programs. Financial aid. Part-time evening classes. It all felt impossibly far away, but so had surviving birth alone. So had making it through the first month with nothing but her own hands and sheer will. One evening, after weeks of quiet struggle, Maya overheard 2 women in the shelter whispering near the kitchen. "She walks like she's got a plan," one said. "Yeah," the other replied. "But she's still here, like the rest of us." Maya didn't respond. But their words stung. Not because they were wrong, but because she couldn't afford to let them be right for long. The next morning, the city was blanketed in snow. Maya bundled Micah tighter than ever and trekked to the bakery, only to find it closed. Pipes had burst overnight. Tanya told her it would take at least 2 weeks to reopen. 2 weeks without pay. Maya walked back to the shelter slowly, heart pounding. Rent for her spot was due soon. Micah was growing. Formula wasn't cheap. She sat in the shelter lobby staring at the job board, fingers clenched. Her chest ached with fear. But just as she turned to leave, an older woman entered, stomping snow from her boots. She wore a navy coat and a hat pulled low, but her eyes were warm. She noticed Maya and stopped. "You all right, child?" Maya nodded reflexively. "Just looking." The woman tilted her head. "You look like you're carrying the whole world." Maya gave a bitter laugh. "Just one tiny piece of it. My son." The woman smiled gently. "I'm Gloria. I volunteer at the community center on 9th. We offer childcare and training, classes, certifications, that sort of thing. If you ever want to stop by, ask for me." She handed Maya a faded card. "You've got the eyes of someone who hasn't quit yet. That counts for something." Maya stared at the card long after Gloria walked away. Something in her heart stirred, hope, fragile and flickering. That weekend, she visited the center. Gloria greeted her with tea and warmth that Maya hadn't known since childhood. She introduced her to other women who had once been in her shoes. She helped Maya apply for financial aid, find donated textbooks, and register for a 3-month medical assistant course. "You'll be tired," Gloria warned. "You'll want to give up. But you won't." And she was right. The course was grueling. Maya barely slept. She balanced early bakery shifts, afternoon babysitting, and evening classes while caring for Micah through teething and colic and growth spurts. But she never missed a class. Never skipped a test. Never stopped. Because every night, when Micah curled against her chest and sighed in his sleep, she felt a strength she didn't know she had. She was building something. And she was just getting started. Maya's days became a patchwork of purpose stitched together by exhaustion. She rose before the sun, gently untangling Micah's little limbs from hers to avoid waking him. With Tanya's bakery reopened, Maya resumed her early morning shifts, her hands toughened, her pace sharpened. By the time most people poured their first coffee, Maya had already scrubbed down half a kitchen. From there, it was back to the shelter to nurse Micah, switch into her second-hand scrubs, and make the trek to the community center for evening classes. Her life was run on schedules, feedings, shifts, exams, diaper changes, and lectures. But slowly, through the chaos, progress took root. At first, the medical terminology overwhelmed her. Words like auscultation, venipuncture, and pathophysiology made her head spin. But Maya was no stranger to doing hard things. After Micah went down for the night, she studied by flashlight, her notes spread across her cot, her eyes heavy but determined. Tanya noticed. "You're not just showing up anymore," she said one morning. "You're reaching." Maya smiled faintly. "I have to." "For him." Tanya nodded. "And for you." The weeks blurred into months. Micah turned 6 months old, chubby, giggling, and beginning to teeth. Maya celebrated with a cupcake she split in half, sharing it with him on a park bench. They didn't have much, but in that moment, they had enough. Then came the storm. A flu outbreak swept through the shelter. Half the women were down within days. Maya held her breath. Micah was still vulnerable. Despite every precaution, one night he woke with a wheezing cry and a fever that wouldn't break. Panic clawed at her chest as she rushed him to the emergency room. The wait felt eternal. She paced the sterile corridor, clutching him close, whispering reassurances through trembling lips. "It's okay, baby. Please be okay." Eventually, a nurse took him back. "Pneumonia," they said. "Early stage. Treatable, but he'd need to stay overnight." Maya wasn't allowed to sleep beside him. She spent the night in the waiting room chair, fighting off sleep and tears, her mind replaying every moment she might have done something wrong. When they were discharged 2 days later, she missed 2 shifts at the bakery. Tanya understood, but business didn't. Maya's hours were cut for the rest of the week. By now, she was living in the shelter's transitional unit, a shared apartment-style space for women close to moving out. Rent was small, but it existed. And with fewer shifts, that safety slipped through her fingers like sand. Faced with mounting bills and dwindling diapers, Maya turned to Gloria at the center. "I need more hours," she said. "Or something." Gloria didn't hesitate. "We need a part-time evening receptionist. It's not glamorous, but it pays hourly. You'd be on the computer, helping women register for classes, answering phones." "I'll take it," Maya said without blinking. Gloria smiled. "Didn't even mention the pay yet." "I don't care." And so began Maya's triple hustle: bakery at dawn, community center in the evening, classes after that. She carried Micah on her back some nights when Kelsey couldn't babysit. She fed him in corners, bounced him through lectures, and taught herself to read medical notes while nursing him. The other students whispered at first. "She's doing all this with a baby? She'll never keep up." "She's got guts, I'll give her that." But guts became grades. Maya aced her practical exams. She was first to volunteer during clinicals. And one day, as the instructor handed back a pop quiz, she said, "Highest score?" "Maya Monroe." The class turned to her in surprise. One even clapped. After class, the instructor approached her. "You've got the hands of a nurse," she said. "Ever think of going further?" Maya blinked. "I just need to finish this." "For now." The instructor nodded. "For now. But keep going. You're not meant to stop here." That night, Maya stood at the window of her shared room while Micah slept. The city lights blinked in the distance like stars trying to break through smog. Her body ached. Her soul throbbed. But her mind dared to dream. Not just of surviving, but of thriving. She'd graduate in 6 weeks. The center had already offered her a full-time role as a health assistant once she passed. Gloria promised to help with daycare. Tanya offered to hold her job until she decided. Maya was slowly, painfully, beautifully, building a life. One morning, as she walked Micah to the shelter's daycare, a woman on the steps stopped her. "You Maya?" "Yes. Someone left this for you." It was a letter, no return address. Inside was a single line. "You're doing better without me than I ever deserved. Jay." Her breath caught. "Jason." She folded the note slowly, heart pounding. She didn't feel rage, or longing, or even sorrow. She felt free. That evening, when Micah took his first step, clumsy, brave, miraculous, Maya clapped through tears. Not just for him, but for them both. Graduation day at the community center arrived quietly, but for Maya, it was seismic. There were no caps and gowns, no confetti or cheering crowds. Just a line of folding chairs, a podium, and a table of printed certificates. Yet as she stood among the other women who had clawed their way through hardship, Maya felt something inside her shift. Gloria gave the opening remarks, her voice strong and full of pride. "These women came to us with questions, about themselves, their worth, their future. Today, they leave with answers. Not all of them, but enough to take the next step." When Maya's name was called, applause erupted from the small crowd. She walked to the front, Micah perched on her hip in a miniature dress shirt, clapping with chubby hands. The instructor handed Maya her certificate with a firm grip and said softly, "You earned every letter on this paper." Maya held the document as if it were gold. It wasn't just a certificate. It was proof. Proof that she had made it through one storm, and was ready for the next. The following Monday, Maya reported to the community center not as a student, but as staff. She now wore a blue polo shirt with a name badge and spent her mornings checking vitals, managing patient records, and helping women navigate everything from prenatal care to blood pressure screenings. At first, the title health assistant felt too big. Too official. But when she took an older woman's trembling hand and helped her through a diabetes test, when she comforted a teen mother through her first checkup, Maya realized, this is what I was made for. She didn't just understand these women. She was them. And that made her powerful. She saved every penny she could, cooking simple meals, cutting her own hair, and thrifting for Micah's clothes. Tanya offered her weekend hours again, just one shift, but it helped. Maya took it. Her goal was clear now, move into her own apartment before Micah's first birthday. The hunt wasn't easy. Landlords looked at her with skepticism the moment they saw single mother and part-time income in the same conversation. Some didn't even pretend to be polite. But one rainy afternoon, Maya met Mr. Lawrence, a quiet, older landlord with kind eyes and a limp. He showed her a tiny one-bedroom over a corner store. The floor creaked, the paint peeled, but the rent was within reach and the windows caught golden light in the late afternoon. "This is all I have," he said. Maya walked through the unit slowly, Micah sleeping on her shoulder. "It's perfect," she whispered. Lawrence ran her numbers, then looked up. "You work at the community center?" "Yes." He paused. "That's where my wife volunteered." Before she passed. Maya said nothing, just lowered her eyes. "She'd like knowing someone like you lived here. Let's make it work." Tears threatened to rise, but Maya blinked them back. "Thank you. You won't regret it." They moved in 2 weeks later. No furniture yet. Just 2 suitcases. A crib someone donated, and Maya's will to make the space a home. She spread a blanket on the floor, sat cross-legged with Micah, and whispered, "We did it, baby." That night, she lay beside him, staring at the cracked ceiling. There were still mountains ahead, rent, savings, daycare. But the silence of having their own space was more luxurious than any hotel suite. She slept deeper than she had in months. One day at work, Gloria found Maya near the break room. "There's a conference downtown," Gloria said. "Local health clinics. They're looking for speakers, real stories." "I thought of you." Maya blinked. "Me? Speak in front of people?" Gloria smiled. "You've already inspired dozens just by walking in the door. Now imagine what you can do with a mic." Maya hesitated, but Micah's face flashed in her mind. All the nights she swore to be more than statistics. More than survival. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." She spent nights drafting her speech between feeding and folding laundry. At the podium a week later, her voice trembled at first, but grew stronger with every word. "I gave birth alone. I raised my son in shelters. I scrubbed bakery floors, studied by flashlight, and lived on hope. But I am not broken. I am proof that women like me, mothers, fighters, survivors, can rise." The room went quiet. Then came the standing ovation. 2 days later, an email landed in her inbox, subject, "Opportunity at City Health Clinic." They'd heard her speech. They wanted an interview. The position was full-time. Health benefits. A future. The interview went well. She spoke clearly, confidently. For the first time, she didn't downplay her story, she led with it. The panel nodded as she described her work, her mission, and her plans to become a licensed nurse in the next few years. A week later, the offer arrived. Maya stared at the screen, frozen. She'd done it. She had a career. Micah turned one the next day. The party was small. Just Tanya, Gloria, Kelsey, and a few others from the center. There was a cake with a lopsided one candle, and Micah smashed it joyfully, frosting covering his face. Maya stood back and watched, smiling. Not just because he was happy, but because she finally was, too. Not every road to success is paved in gold. Some are made of grit, grief, and grit again. But Maya had walked hers barefoot, baby in arms, and she was still standing. Stronger than ever. 2 years later, Maya stood outside the hospital entrance, this time not as a patient or scared young mother, but as an employee of the city health clinic. She had traded her community center polo for a white scrub top embroidered with her name. Her badge read, Maya Monroe, Certified Medical Assistant. Micah, now 3, tugged at her hand. Are you going to fix more people today, Mama? Maya smiled, adjusting the little backpack on his shoulders. I'll try, baby. Just like I fixed you. He beamed and hugged her legs before his daycare bus pulled away. Every morning still started early, but now it began with purpose, not panic. Her apartment had furniture, real curtains, even a little bookshelf full of Micah's favorite picture books. She had learned how to build a life, not just survive one. At the clinic, Maya was known not only for her skill, but her empathy. She spoke to young mothers in soft, knowing tones. She helped undocumented patients navigate medical jargon without fear. Doctors leaned on her. Nurses respected her. And every day, she earned more than just a paycheck, she earned trust. One afternoon, as she updated charts, her supervisor, Dr. Ramsey, called her into his office. There's a nursing program at the university we partner with, he said. You'd qualify for their accelerated track. Maya blinked. But that's college. He nodded. You're ready. More than most. She stared down at her hands, steady, calloused, healing hands. Hands that had cradled a newborn in the dark, that had signed a shelter intake form, that had changed lives. I'll apply, she said quietly. I owe it to Micah. And myself. Later that month, Maya was closing the clinic when the front door swung open. A man stood there, rain dripping off his coat. Jason. For a second, time stopped. His face was thinner. His eyes tired. But it was him. Maya, he said softly. She stood tall. What do you want? I was in the area. I heard about the work you've done. I thought maybe. She waited. I just wanted to see him. Just once. Maya's voice was calm. Steady. You saw him when you left. That's the last time. Jason looked down, ashamed. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to say. I was wrong. And you. You're everything I wasn't strong enough to be. She studied him for a long moment. Then, gently, I don't need your approval. Micah doesn't either. He nodded slowly. I know. Goodbye, Maya. He walked out into the rain and didn't look back. And Maya didn't cry. She felt nothing but peace. The acceptance letter from the university arrived weeks later. Congratulations, Maya Monroe. Welcome to the accelerated nursing program. That night, she lay on the couch with Micah sleeping beside her. She whispered to him through the dim glow of the lamp. You won't remember the worst of it. But I will. And I'll make sure that your life, the real one, starts from this point on. In the mornings, they danced to music in the kitchen. On weekends, they rode buses to museums, parks, and story hours. Maya studied during naps and rocked him to sleep with her textbooks on her lap. The girl who had once given birth alone now stood in classrooms beside future doctors and nurses, strong, capable, focused. 3 years later, Maya sat in a new auditorium, this time in a cap and gown. As she walked across the stage to receive her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Micah cheered from the front row, now 6, holding a sign that read, My MOM is a nurse hero. Tanya was there. So was Gloria. Even Dr. Ramsey. The crowd clapped. Maya took her diploma. And in that moment, everything came full circle. She had lost everything once. But in rebuilding, she'd found something greater. Herself. Epilogue. Maya opened her own women's health outreach clinic at the edge of the neighborhood she once slept in. It was modest, but beautiful, walls painted warm gold, a play corner for children, soft chairs for tired mothers. She named it the Micah Center. When reporters asked why, she smiled. Because he saved me as much as I saved him. The woman who had walked home alone after giving birth now held keys to a clinic that welcomed hundreds. She had gone from abandoned to admired. From homeless to healer. And her story, born in silence and pain, had become something loud and unshakable.